I'm Danielle, and this is Uzband, and my next line is, we are your honored millennials. Now you can see why we were a little hesitant.
And tonight's theme?
Today's theme is seeing the many faces of the Christ, which is a theme that I am very enthused about. I really love seeing the Christ in all things, and I am excited to expand further into that today.
Yes, and this movement is about that. It's about seeing the Christ in all things, seeing the beloved in all things, seeing God in all things.
So now we are going to call ourselves forward into the light. And calling ourselves forward into the light can be thought of as attuning to the Christ, to the spiritual heart, or just simply the loving, whatever words you want to put to it. After we call on the light, we will chant 3 on-I hues, on-I being empathy and hue being God. And feel free to chant with us or participate on any level that you feel called to. So I invite you to close your eyes now. And we ask for the presence of the Father, Mother, God to fill, surround, and protect each of us here. And we allow ourselves to expand into the heart of God as we let go and allow ourselves to move more fully into that. We ask for the presence of the Christ and ask for greater awareness of the presence of the Christ. And we're grateful to be here in this place. And thy will is done, and so be it.
So be it. So next we have some excerpts by John Roger. John Roger, as was mentioned earlier, is the founder of this organization and held the mystical traveler consciousness for over 50 years. These excerpts have been taken from one of his many trips to the Holy Land, Jerusalem, with John Morton and friends. These excerpts have been specially chosen for today, as John Roger would be talking about the Christ consciousness and seeing the faces of the Christ in several different ways. And for those of you who are interested, these excerpts are from the DVD packet, Journey to the East.
Listen to things and put flesh and blood on them, and don't look for them as being perfect, but look at them as moving to levels of consciousness. And when we finally come to the end, all of the levels of consciousness, both the dark side and the light side, will be what is made up of the Christ consciousness. And very few people understand the dark side of spiritual consciousness, let alone the Christ side. But the most important thing to remember is if you have to harden yourself against a person, you must first close down your spirit. And that's the only way you can do it. So when you are individually, collectively, out to get somebody, to stone them, to crucify them, you must first close down your spirit so you have no conscience about it. So you have no feeling about it. So you have no compassion about it. And then you can deliver the death blow. When we look back historically in some of our literature, and Shakespeare is an example where people would fall on the sword, if you love me, kill me. It makes you wonder if that's the type of love we're talking about. And it is not that. That's a physical loyalty. It's if you're loyal to me, then hold this and do it for me because you're a trained soldier and you've been ordered to obey, then obey and do that. And then we'll place a judgment on it. And you have to remember, now we don't know what's going on. And even in the moment of condemning, which is the dark side of the person, they were then chosen by the bright side of the Christ to say, come and follow me. And hopefully when that happens, and it happens to you, your bright side will be bright enough to recognize that you were asked so that you can get up and start moving. Almost everyone, and the big key, the big key in all of this is in the words where he said, come, follow me. He did not say, sit down, process till you're negative, and deal with your karma. Is it ethnic cleansing when you are Muslim, or you're Jew, or you're Christian, or is it religious cleansing? If you just go back in the Bible a little bit, and out of Abraham came the father of the Semite race, and they're down in Egypt, and they're down in Iraq and Arabia, and they're here, you have to stop and pause and ask yourself the questions. Who are the Jews? Who are the Arabians? Who are the Egyptians? Who are these people? And what makes them that? And what makes them that is just a definition. They say, I am this. And then to prove they do that, they enter the tradition. And those who don't enter the tradition are terrible, wrong people. Well, I'm sitting here telling you that's just not true. I've read most all of them now. And there is beauty, tremendous beauty, in all of these religions. They have an unspoken undercurrent to love God, to love your neighbor, to do good, to do the best you can. Have you gotten to these days here in Galilee that we have the things the disciples, the apostles had in them? We've got inside of us. We've got that duality. And if they could be chosen by the Lord, who looked at him and said, you really got some terrible faults, but I can use you anyway. Then that means they can look right on us with all of ours and say, I can use you anyway. The thing is, they chose back continuously. Even when they were dispersed to different parts of the world, even the moment before they died, they chose back. That may be the greatest discipline that we have to have, is to continually choose back, even when we're saying, I don't love you, I hate you, I won't choose back, we choose back. In the midst of all the negative emotions and the thinking of the mind, we stand back of that and look at it and go, and I'm still choosing back. Not to another human being, but to the Spirit of God in them. And the Spirit of God between you.
And now I have the tremendous blessing of introducing somebody who I have endless respect and love and admiration for, and just such gratitude for what he brings to this world, the Christ, light, and the love. So thank you for being here. Please join me in welcoming John Morton.
Okay, so welcome. Thank you for coming together and being here. That includes last count, something like 180 connections, which may be in the multiplication like loaves and fishes or something like that. So we're looking at the faces of the Christ today. That was an invitation a while back. I think it goes back longer than a millennium, or millennials, however that would translate. And what does it mean? That's where we get lost often, as we try to figure out what something means, using something that's very limited to determine or derive the meaning. But then in any case, let's give it a go. Let's see if we can move forward in whatever we came here to do today, that there's a fellowship of the Christ here. And that means that Christ is amongst us, not in some partial way, but in a complete way. So be present with that. And if in some way you're not relating to the Christ as you are now, then consider it's next to you, and maybe it's behind you. Remember the part of the story that goes, Satan, get thou behind me? So consider that the Christ is in Satan. I'm letting that maybe linger a bit, because in this movement of spiritual inner awareness, there are some principles that are living principles. They're not something that we just tack up on a board or in a book or we recite over and over. They're living principles that amongst them, out of God comes all things. So if there is such a thing as Satan, it came from God. And what is the nature of that God? What is the nature of where we come from, who we come from? So if it is something dark and negative in the worst way, then consider it's of God. And if we can determine what is of God, then we can determine what is of Satan or any of the rest of it. So let's consider that God is also love, that God loves all of its creation, that it is a complete source. I like that. It rather simplifies whatever we're doing in this following. And it is a following, as the words that we just heard from John Roger, that there are those who come amongst us who are our brothers and sisters, and in some way they can show us the way. And let's consider that one is one who knows the way, and who would know the way if they're not of God. And let's consider eventually we come into a choice where it is our own knowing that becomes the way, that we awaken our knowing. And that's what we're here doing today one more time, coming into this presence, determining who we are. There's another way I want us to realize what this is, and that is to refer to a story that Jesus was telling. And it was to somebody as a kind of a parable, and it was at a point where he was also referring of goats and sheep, and that there was going to be a great judgment, a great determination of who were those who were following and doing the good works and coming into what is the calling, and who were in some way rejecting it. So in that parable, the ones that were following and choosing back were referred to as the sheep, and the ones who were not were referred to as the goats. And then he also told of when he was naked, he was clothed. When he was hungry, he was fed. When he was in prison, he was visited. When he was sick, they came to attend to him and care for him. And then those who were the followers were questioning amongst themselves, well, when did this happen? Because they didn't remember Jesus in prison or sick. So then when he answered that part of it, that's when you did it unto the least of them, my brethren, then you did it unto me. So let's consider that's another way of saying that the face of the Christ is on the least of the brethren. Can you see that connection? So, what is not the face of the Christ? Is there any such thing? And in my humble determination, that's what we must all reckon with, is that it's all the Christ or none of it is. And in my independent survey that I like to refer to, it's much better to consider it's all the Christ than none of it is the Christ. And to act in that accordance. Then to consider, where are we? We're in a place of great testing. It's a mysterious place. But in the mystery is also the mystical, which is the opportunity to find it even if we have no idea of how to do that. Even if we were to put ourselves on the scale that measured what is in your heart by a feather representing the truth of who you are. And in that scale, you are called upon to be lighter than the feather. There is one who is, that we can know as the Immaculate One, as the one who always is in the truth, always is loving. And by claiming what that is in this place, whatever you would call this earth, the land of reflection, the testing ground, the classroom, that we're in this place to choose back. And that we don't have to wait to choose back. We don't have to go on the great scale and have our deeds measured and have our worthiness measured, that we can consider that it's in us all along, that we have this opportunity to step into it. And even if we consider who John Roger is, and that runs deep in me, it's just to ask the question, shakes me up, as you can tell. And I'm glad it's still moving, moving my earth, shaking me up after all these eons. That I see the exampleship that comes before us is human in nature, it's ordinary in nature. There was a moment when Jesus came amongst those practicing the law and being rather fervent and forthright in it. The story of the stoning of the woman for adultery. And so he asked a question into the air for all to consider. Who amongst you is without sin? And I want us to consider there is someone amongst us who is without sin. And that's what's necessary in order for the Christ to be amongst us. That there must be this presence that is holy, that is true, always truthful, always loving. Or how can we in some way obtain that? That it's not, if it's not at hand, then where is it? So in that occasion, the way the story goes is the people that considered that question walked away. They didn't cast the stone. Then let's consider, could Jesus have also cast the stone? And in that presence that he claimed, that when you've seen me, you've seen the Father. In that presence, so either he was a great liar, or even if he wasn't such a great liar, maybe he was lousy at it. But that lie would have incurred some kind of damnation. Or what he was claiming and professing is something that he was holding as a consciousness of the Christ that is anointed, that has this power, that it can dwell amongst us. So it's here today, it's here in our life, and it walks with us. So consider that all the days of your life, whatever you have incurred, whatever you have done, whatever has taken place, that the Christ was always with you, this Lord of Lords, this presence of the divine. It doesn't go running to the hills or go missing. It doesn't die, it's not lost. So then it's always amongst it, it's always with it, it's always breathing in our breath. So that in our worst moment, you suppose there's some measurement for that? Some scale that they bring out. And now we're going to show you your worst moment. But before that, we'll show you some of your other not so great moments leading up to your worst moment. You might as well sit down, it's going to take a while. Meanwhile, back to the Lord saying, come follow me, get up. We have things to do. Don't tarry in what has happened in the past or what you think has happened. Just get up. The Holy Presence is with you. It calls to you. It's here. It's in your brothers and sisters. So that if it's with us all the while, it's with them all the while. So whatever we've done to our brothers and sisters, we've done unto the greatest amongst us. But notice that if there was to be a termination or a squashing of the fly or something like that, it would have taken place, such that we would not be here in this presence to consider what we are even now. So that's a great love. And I look at us as we're in one more round of however many rounds there are, and I don't think it's a quantity. I just think it's the latest round of moving ourselves into the consciousness of the beloved, that it is a rising up. And that's not just in our stature, but it's also in how we would put ourselves forth, that we would choose amongst the range of consciousness available to us, from the lowest to whatever's in between to the highest. So what would you choose this day? And that's a question in the scriptures as well. And for me in my house, we choose the Lord of Lords. So welcome to my house. You can claim it as your house. Do you understand that? When we're family, it's our house. So it's also something we might wonder, well, who's the master of the house? And consider that all of us can step into what that is. That there's room for everyone to step in to the highest consciousness, that it doesn't have a limitation. So all of us can step into the Christ. All of us can step into the anointing. And then be prepared for what follows. And what is that? Here comes another great teaching. You're never given anything you can't handle. So whatever follows, you can handle it. What would you then handle it with amongst all the choices available to you? So consider what the Christ does, and consider that we always have that choice to bring it present. And I heard Jared talking about it, that when we would have hatred, and when we would want to smite them, whatever it is in the worst negative way, that That's the consciousness that will not do that. And it's with us. And you can take a moment to just look, however you look upon your existence, and consider that that consciousness has always been with you, making itself available as a choice. And even if you look and say, well, I didn't make that choice, make it now. That we would place love and forgiveness to whatever has been, that we would straighten our way, place the beloved into the consciousness so that it all comes clear. That we have a God that is new, that presents a new day, a new love, a love that's here. Don't be surprised if in some way you're tempted by what we know as the negative. It just goes with this territory. But know whatever you do, whatever is done unto you, that choice is always present to make it loving, to make it something graceful and light. And that's what's being called to us right now, to do that choice. So it is here, it is present. And one of the opportunities that comes present when we do these gatherings is it becomes something that is referred to as the two or more. And even if that's something that you do as those who come from spirit, that you would call out in the name that comes from on high, that we do that. We do indeed call on God's name. And in that frequency and vibration, we hold it so that others may see, so that we may all come into the conversion. So if Satan is amongst us, just as the Christ is amongst us, that we would hold for that conversion. That there is heaven on earth. Just as it can be portable, it can be pervasive. It can be contagious. It can go wherever we are. That we have that power that loves no matter what. And we do exercise it. So it becomes what we are known for as our good works. That no matter what, they will know us as those who were striving for the greater love. That we were moving this spirit in and amongst us. That whatever this world brings to us in any form, any condition, whatever our brothers and sisters would bring to us as our latest opportunity to love, that becomes our choice. So we ask, especially that one who is the greatest love, the greatest light, the greatest truth, to be with us so we are whole in this light, this love, and this truth. That we are anointed. So we rise up, we raise ourselves into this life, this living love that overcomes this world, overcomes whatever presents itself as the ends of this world, as the death. That we rise up in this birth, this rejoicing, this celebration that comes as the beloved of God, as the joy and the peace and the harmony, that it is the reigning of this consciousness, that we are those who give it a place in this world and invite all into this way, into this light, and into this love. Beirish Beishan. The lines are open. If there are any questions, some ready, prepared ones. Okay, thank you. During spiritual exercises, what is the best way to bring the Christ consciousness present? Invite the Christ consciousness present. Yes, those words work. Let's see. I'm going in between Spanish and French. That's fun. Lingue, okay. But in any case, according to whatever that would be for you, it's more important that you come into an experience that it is light, it is love, it is truth. I am beginning to awaken to the energy of the angelic kingdom and its healing energy. Would you say more about this kingdom and how to work with it more consciously? Well, it's kind of like how to work with water and soil and air, so that it becomes one more element of our consciousness, of a higher nature. Like anything, there would be substances that would not be serving of our higher nature and our well-being. So could there be dark angels? Could there be angels that disturb you? Could there be ghosts? Could there be demons? You get the point? So be careful what you're working with. Careful what you're calling forward. And there are those who proclaim, I come from God. I am the Christ. And they speak falsely. I didn't invent that. That was spoken long ago. So they're all our false teachers. They're all false. I'm watching what they're doing to my tongue. There are false teachers. There are false prophets. So then you can say, well, maybe you're one. Exactly. Check it out. See what works come from them. See what works come to you. Are you disturbed? Are you happy? Do you get better? Are you served by what you need to experience and learn? If you can say yes to that, then the adventure is on. It's on regardless. So you're a responsible creator. What you choose to be involved in is your responsibility. Who you associate with is your responsibility. And it might be something like, well, I'm just karmically completing. That's how I got in this family. Okay, then be about the completing. Wish to bless them, love them, forgive them, and go on about your business. That your call is from God, it's from within. That's where the directive is coming from. The prime directive comes from within. So you do not need a voice out here or anything out here to tell you what to do with your life. Pure and simple. Now, if you get a beautiful reflection, somebody who is gifted to help you realize yourself and can be a companion, an assistant, a friend, that's perfectly in good standing. You don't need to do it alone, and you couldn't anyway. So you're going to use something. Just be aware of it, and when it's served its purpose, be prepared to move on. This is a place where we need to learn how to be free in our movement, so we're detached, that our loyalty is to this presence inside. But when we meet up with it in another, there can be great celebration, great opportunity to share and care in the moment. How can I tell if it's time to move on? Let's see, is this the same person? And have other experiences in the world, especially as I feel very comfortable, yet know I'm not using all of my gifts. I don't feel a push or a pull to receive guidance from Spirit when I keep checking. Well, you better keep checking. If you're talking about the spiritual nature of who you are, that's like your oxygen. I don't know what you're thinking, that you don't need that, but you do. So if you're managing to get it, and then it allows you to resource, and then you use whatever that is as your opportunity to experience yourself. That's how it works. It's a process of learning how to do it so you take full responsibility for your life as an opportunity to come into the oneness, to come into the maturity, the maturation of your soul experience. When you've done that, then you outgrow this world. Pure and simple. This world doesn't fit you anymore. It's like trying to put on those shoes that you wore around when you were an infant. Maybe they might fit your big toe or something like that. So this is how we're doing the questions in the room, correct? Yeah. Okay. Then I'll shuffle them up a little bit and see how that works. Okay, well, this one just has a name and says Light and Love. Okay, Light and Love. Beautiful. I'm glad you're both acknowledging it and calling it forward. Please send light and blessings to my friend, MSIA minister, and yeah, okay, I got it. But sometimes people don't necessarily want their name with everything going on these days. Okay. We got that. Recently, I had someone share a reply you gave him in a letter that was written to you. I feel that somehow something karmically shifted with his sharing, and I'm asking your help regarding clearing this. I feel for some reason it was meant to be personal. In some way, I picked up energy when I was read to me. Aha, you just went on to the other side of the coin. Like, why don't we often want to go back into what something was done as a sharing, and then the karma is shifted in the sharing, then even someone choosing to share it with you, then you could somehow get engaged in the karma. And you go, how did I get here? Did you just engage me in your karma? Sometimes that happens, but look, you're not this thing called impervious or immune. So you're not put in this earth to not be affected by what's here. So just get over that. Okay? So when it happens, deal with it. And put yourself right. Come back into balance. Bring in the light. Maybe hold the precedings. Like, can you just hold that? Because I'm being affected by what you've already shared, and I want to balance. And how about we do moving into the light more fully now, and let's move into the clearing. And perhaps we don't even need to do anything more with the information because it's from back there and then, and that's already over. Let's do it here and now in the light and the love. And if somebody essentially wants to indulge in the karma, just consider you don't have to unless it's your karma. And then often you just need to outlast it, called endure to the end. And you win. So just consider that's what we're doing in this world. We're enduring to the end, and we win. We call it soul transcendence. Can you please help me with the... Oh, I thought that helped you, but I guess it's helped with the drought in California. Let's see, should I have less water? Maybe, but maybe, the reality is we all need water. Yeah. California needs water. So it's being more conscious about it. So maybe I'll just pour some water into the glass, not fill it all the way, just in case. I'm not going to drink it, but maybe I'll just take care of that now. So then, waste not, want not. And there's more where that came from. That's still the truth. There's still more water. Lee and I drove by the Pacific Ocean on the way over here. There's water everywhere. Yeah, so we need fresh water. Well, we did do a rain dance at Easter. And it definitely got east of here a bit. Did you notice? So maybe we're just a little, not quite. But also that we are calling it forward in what is here. So if the planetary, now down to California karma, was 7 years of drought, or you know how they used to do 7 years of everything, or 3. I'm kind of exaggerating, but then again, if you look at the numbers, you see these things repeated. But in any case, if we have it coming, then what we can do is be intelligent as we go through what we need to go through. So part of that would be what's in motion as conservation, that we each do that individually, but then we can also be looking at what could relieve us of what this is, so that in grace, because the light has that in full power and full measure, and because we are holders of the authority that can call it forward, then we can do that. We put that into the highest good of all concerned. Then, you ever seen those little water spirits? I think they're called sprites or something like that. Anyway, yeah, there's little munchkins or something, whatever they're called, that hang out in nature in various forms. So then it's like we dance according to what would be their freedom and release. You know, if you do these things often as a child would do them, there's magic keys there. You know, with the power of a child's imagination, the fervency of a child's faith and trust and belief in what can be done. You know, that's part of it. And also, whatever has been the patterns of waste and not respect and not appreciating. One of the luxuries in my life is water. I love it. You know, just to have a clean water shower, to me, is still a luxury. Maybe some of you prefer it as an immersion, like a bath. Some of you are still getting close to water after all these eons. Or you could get closer to water. That's another way of looking at it. But these are all ways that we can put this forth as understanding of what we're here again in different kingdoms. So there's kingdoms of dimensionality and elements. So the water is its own kingdom. It's an element that we can be in harmony with. And when we demonstrate that harmony more fully and powerfully, the karma often finishes and releases, so we can get an early out on good behavior, which would be, again, we're respecting the water we have, honoring that, and then working with, cooperating with how it comes forward. And when we do, we're more prepared to appreciate the water. And then we can pass that on to all the elements, especially in the natural kingdoms that we sometimes take for granted. I would like your assistance, guidance, and clarity. Okay, you have that. And I'm speaking spiritually, even though you'd say, well, you're speaking auditorily, but you can do those simultaneously. I've been feeling off and out of alignment both inwardly and in my life. In this world, that's going to be par for the course. So just be aware of how would you, in your current situation, move into balance, move into harmony. That's a good question to ask yourself and be conscious of. So then there's physical symptoms, overwhelm, stress, comparing myself. That's just another way of saying judging myself or judging others. Fearful, lacking in clear career direction. Just downsize that a bit so that you can take it from a career to a job. And then just do something good. Do you understand that? Like, make something better today as a job. Sometimes you can do that as offer your service, volunteer your service. And then in those situations, maybe they have the means, so every once in a while they hire somebody. That often works really well. So if you start out as a volunteer or something close to that, I think they sometimes call them interns. They're really glorified volunteers. But in some way, just make yourself available to what you want to create and what you want to do. Another part of that is that you'll see others who are doing what you want to do by being around them. Then you can ask questions, hopefully, and bring yourself forward in the knowledge and the ability to do what would your life bring forward, or what your life is bringing forward as your gifts, your abilities. If we were doing more of this world would start becoming a paradise. If more people, like right now, got up and did something to help, just like shifted into doing something, making anything, anyone better. Some 7 billion strong. Okay, well, let's take it down to about 5. So some of them, they need rest right now. Okay, so we'll allow 28% of us to rest, while the rest of us do something to help. Sound fair? Okay. If we kept that up, it would really work. Please share with us all about the cosmic Christ. You remember the flying nun? Yes. Some going, the what? Okay, that's all right. Once upon a time, there was a TV show, and it was called The Flying Nun, and the nun could fly. So just consider when we soar, when we fly, we're with the cosmic Christ. We're with the radiant presence, the holy presence, where there's no pain, there's no suffering, there's no evil or darkness. But as we enter into this creation, the one we call, what is it? It's got a lot of names. Well, let's just say the one that the call power is running. Then we're in a whole nother relationship, so that we need to conform. And what I mean by that is that we don't have the liberty to violate the law. So as one of the Christs told us, we come here to fulfill the law. And it doesn't have to be imprisonment. It can just be following how things work. So like in this land, we drive on the right side. In other lands, they drive on the left side. Don't confuse those, or there'll be collisions. You see, but I want to drive on the left side. That's where I come from. Well, in this land, you're going to have a collision. So often we're dealing with our spoiled nature and where we come from, that we still remember ourselves spiritually, which is one of the things we need to all do, is remember ourselves spiritually, remember ourselves to the anointing. And that's part of what's going on. But in order to do that, we also need to make peace with the negativity. All of it. That's the overcoming. So you forgive it all, love it all. And sometimes that gets right down to the mosquito, or the bite, or the itch. You got it? It's like it's going to come right into something very specific at times. Good, then you know what to love, the thing that's bothering you. And some days it can be like, well, it's been bothering me all day long. Well, that just means you have a great opportunity to get over that. Thank you for being my friend through thick and thin. I'll leave that. You didn't need to say that. That was true. But it works in camaraderie. That's my Russian for today. Somebody got that. That's okay. That was my sense of humor. That we do it to one another. Do unto another as the Christ, as the one anointed, the one sent of God would do. So send God's love. Even if you say to them, well, if it was up to me, I wouldn't send you God's love. But since I'm such a great servant of God, I'll do what God asked me to do, and I'll send you the love anyway. But personally, I don't want to. I suppose it's like that at times, kind of like the reluctant Messiah or something. I'm looking at so much that isn't working in my life. Well, look at what's working in your life. Change your focus. This stuff does not have to be complex. You can just change what you're looking at. Quick, what's the secret to soul transcendence? That was very good. I'll do my rendition. So to look for the good in people and things. Oh, in the divine. So that's in there. And all the rest leave to God. And I think there's maybe an only. Like look only for the good. Yes, amongst many great teachings from John Roger, he referred to that as the secret of soul transcendence, to look only for the good. So keep yourself positively. That's another way to look at it. What is helping? What is uplifting? And after you look for a while, energy will follow. That means you'll start doing it. You'll start being what it is. What guidance do you have in loving thee more clearly, following thee more nearly day by day? I think it maybe is in Pat 2 or Pat 3 where we do a focus on keeping my eyes on the Lord. Anybody remember Pat? Anyway, one of our great Pat. That's a little plug that in July up at Lake Arrowhead, you'll have the opportunity for Pat 1, Pat 2, Pat 3. There's also going to be a Pat 1 up in Victoria, Canada, or the island of Victoria, in August, I think it is. August 2nd through 6th. So if you've been wanting a reason to go up to Canada and at the same time participate in the PAT, there it is. Okay, so following the Lord would also keeping track and in some way bringing your focus, bringing what you bring into clarity, you know, that we have this ability in this level to do it into a particular point. So it's not just a, let's go physics, vector. You know, vector has what? Force and direction, but it's also the timing. So then there's a pulse or a rhythm. So when the Lord pauses, then if you don't pause, you might bump into the Lord or run the Lord over with your tire tracks on your sandals bought in Mexico. Some of you know what I'm talking about. You had, what do they call those, huaraches or huaraches? I still can't pronounce it now. But anyway, you know, it was kind of a genius. I mean, here we are up in Norte Americana, you know, we're throwing away all these tires, and they're going, hey, we can do stuff with this. We can turn this into souls. And it's like, it was good. After a while, I think Nike came up with this. Did you know that? Like the first pair of Nike shoes, I think it had, what was it? Like rubber off of inner tubes or something. Anyway, I may be way out of my field at the moment. In any case, that's all about keeping your eyes on what the Lord's doing. And that can be silent when it's time to be silent. Be patient. Like have a look and come into that frequency. That's what spiritual exercise is designed to do, is to help us come into the frequency so we are in the fellowship with the Lord. The Lord is amongst us because we're in that vibration, that way of thinking. Is there anybody here that wants peace? Does this mean yes? See, I can interpret like, you mean yes when you do that. With that one eye lowered and the other one, the eyebrow goes up, this one goes down. It means yes, I do want peace. Because I'll give it to you. Even if you don't know you want it for yourself. It's not a violation. It's a spiritual directive. Peace toward all. It's like, it's a way, you see, it's a way. I have no fight with anyone. Even when I fight with myself. And somehow it spreads over to somebody else's fight. And it looks like a fight or a war or something. In my heart, where it's anointed, there's peace. Peace is present, regardless of circumstances or conditions. You've heard that information before. So it's a reality. And so, well, is it just peace? It's the holy presence that is always loving, comes in peace, always holds its peace. And it's harmonious. It doesn't have againstness in any way. It doesn't have it in the purse. So if you say, give me your againstness, I don't have any. Well, then I'll kill you. I still don't have any against us. And it would only be done because the Father of us permits it. Then it becomes a demonstration that the greatest would be in the least position. That we all may enter the greatest. So when it was done to the least of them, even unto the negative power, because if you read the story, it's like, well, wasn't he walking with the negative power in the wilderness or something like that and having these conversations? And it was more like a brotherly companionship dialogue. Yeah, because in some way, what was being done was being worked out as a plan, and a plan that shifted. And let's consider we were part of the shift, that we called out for the shift. Like, hey, God, can we get a better plan? Something like that. As a man, they scribbled out something else. So prior to being a man, they were something else, at least based on what's on the paper, which happens. I enjoy being masculine and cultivating my strength on many levels. Part of my expression is as a protector and provider for those in my life, which is very fulfilling to me. Yeah, you know, this quality of protection and providing is a God-like quality. You understand that? So then when we step into it, then we also would offer up protection and provide for another, as though, let's see, are you the least of them or are you the greatest? Doesn't matter. Here. We don't have to figure that out. Because, you know, we're doing it to the one who counts. So however we work that out. Sometimes it seems that it's necessary to be willing to fight or confront others in order to protect. Okay, let's take a look at that. So John Roger said, peace is the cessation of againstness. So cessation would translate to something like cease, stop. Stop the against us. So how would we? Maybe we enter into it as a loving action. So there you've got to qualify what you're calling a fight as a loving action. If you can't qualify it and know it as a loving action, oh, okay, here's one of my confessions. I've done this confession before, but let's do it again. I once slapped my mother really hard. Do tell, John, why did you slap your mother really hard? Well, she was hysterical. What does that mean? Well, she was screaming and just really about as upset as anybody could be without passing out or something like that. And this just came over to me to slap her. So I did, and she stopped being hysterical. So actually, I'm here today saying, I think it worked. And I was kind of astonished by it. Why was she hysterical? Because my brother arrived on our front doorstep, like late at night, like 1 or 2 in the morning, and he was bleeding and he'd been stabbed in the back. Yeah, this is a fact. My mother answered the door. Then I'm waking up hearing my mother hysterical, screaming. I'm thinking, you know, and then I go and I see the blood and I see my brother and, you know, I do my quick determination of, is he okay? And I determined he was okay. It was a flesh wound, but it was a pretty good one. There was plenty of blood, but it was a flesh wound on the back, and then this just came over to me to slap my mother, and I did. And then I was the one who took my brother to the emergency room. You know, so obviously by then I was 16 or older, but still living at home. And the rest is history. And by the way, my mother and I got along really well, and it just got better and better all the way until she passed. So even if I sinned against my mother, it got the blessing. So there's my point. So, you know, what I'm really saying is that stopping the negativity, you know, it's one of those things like, how do we do this? And some things are in our wisdom, not our level of concern. So it's not our calling that there are things being worked out in negative forms. And sometimes someone like a fire comes up against the fire, and then they both extinguish. So the fire on one side extinguishes the fire on the other side, and then sometimes there's multiple sides. And, you know, there's the so-called great fire, but it's just extinguishing what needs to be extinguished. It's burning something out. And in the natural world, you know, just using that, you know, scorched earth doesn't mean something will never grow there again. Oh, it can grow. I mean, sometimes it takes many cycles because the growth is designed to move through many cycles, or like cycles of the earth, called a year. So it can take a while, and then what are we doing? And often we need to consider, you know, the natural order as best we can, and that we have been given the knowledge and authority as a dominion that's spoken of in the book of Genesis, so that we had powers assigned to us as we came into the human species or element. And some of that you can say, well, it's been evolving and moving through its own version of cycles. So there's one version of growth by continuous return. It sounds kind of awful, doesn't it? And what we're doing in soul transcendence is like, let's just return. Let's go now. So that we're not completing through evolving into, we have the keys. We're just employing the one who has the keys because the opportunity is at hand if we have the wit to seek it. Where was I? You see where that took us? It's almost like forget about what that other thing was. The negativity. You know, there I was fighting the negativity, and then one day I said, you know what? I'm just going to go to God. Forget this fighting the negativity. Balancing out the negativity. Doing unto them what they did unto us, only harder. At some point, it's like it's a knockout or drag out or something. It just gets dragged out, kind of ad infinitum. But there is a finite aspect to it. But who says any of us want to be here to the bitter end? Even if the bitter end is, and now we will go sweet. Thank God, at last it's going sweet. Yeah, there are new ages. There's new cycles. We're in one. So in a cycle of the golden light that is the Christ light that we can choose into it, we can be some of the first to go. That we would sign on into that opportunity. That one has come amongst us who brought great opportunity. And it's also about what was asked about earlier, about how do we follow the Christ, that we would keep our eyes on it, and so we would also keep our eyes on the opportunity to go where it's going. So if we had someone who was coming directly out of the heart of God as an incarnation, think about that. How would we know it? We'd know it in the face of the Christ. And also that we would have the ears to hear. So with the eyes to see, then we'd have all the senses would be attuned. This is the Christ. And the Christ within is standing forth, rising up, resurrecting itself from a... It's not like it's dead, but I mean, I know that's the term that's used, but it's more asleep. So it's just not awake. So we awaken the Christ within. That it says, we watched, Lee and I, the original Day the Earth Stood Still with Michael Rennie, if you know that one, 1952. But it really still delivers if you're interested as a message film. Definitely had a message. But part of it was to see Gort, and did you know JR had a dog named Gort for a while? Yeah. And who was he named after? He was named after that robotic figure in The Day the Earth Stood Still. So now you're intrigued. But the words that awakened Gort so that he would do his purpose, like he would be there just completely still with his eye slits closed. Whereas like clock 2, something, the woman uttered these words that the Michael Rennie character from another land, like Space Brother kind of thing, taught her that if you say these words, then he'll do what he needs to do. So we do that when we do the initiation tone. And we also speak to the Christ. So have the intention that when you do your invocations, that you are speaking directly into the heart of God, that God hears you like word for word and reads your mind and knows what's in your heart. So make it good. So if there's something cluttering your heart, weighing your heart down, just make that part of the offering, that I come before you as I am, not in any pretense that you don't know my limitations, my disturbances, that we bring that forth. I'm going to close that, if you're wondering. I know it's open. Meaning the blessing. We got a blessing from the heart of God that's wide open right now. Then this one says, last card. Can you talk about your personal experience of seeding and any special techniques? Sure, but the reality is doing it, does it? So just do it. And the information that we have that tells you step by step how to do seeding, it's a practice. Just do the best you can, but in some way it is an offering. So just remember, you're taking the fruits of your labor, the blessings of your life, what you have been given that is yours to give. The most important part of that is the internal, the ephemeral, whatever that means. But remember, that's what goes first, is the good intention that you're claiming it. And then there is an offering, so it's that you would give unto God, the Creator and the Source, for what you are about to receive. So let's consider the opportunities to give your life such as it is right now. Right up to this moment, as a culmination of your entire existence particularly in this psychic material creation, that you would offer it all up. So we offer up ourselves in full as a complete offering of all that we have to give, whatever of that is worthy, whatever that is that you can use for greater good, that we would ask to be a gift unto you, our Lord, our God, in the highest. And that we remain open, as you have remained open to us always, in all ways. That we ask you to bring us into this attunement. That we are at one with you. That we have come before you face to face. That even if we do not know what that is consciously, we are asking for it. We are putting ourselves forth that we may see your face, Lord, and all may know us in kind as one with you, beloved of God, your friend, always. Beirich Bishan. I'm feeling like Gort right now, if my slits, someone needs to utter klaktu aktu. There we go. Thank you all. God bless you.
Thank you very much, John. We appreciate you. Next, we have some creative contributions to help us move more fully into this sweetness that's present here. And first up, we have Elizabeth Spanton, who will be reciting her poem, Christed Friends. Please welcome Elizabeth.
This poem to the Christ in each of us, especially to the Christ in John Morton, who manifest magnificent Christ love and Christ friendship to us. And I ask that the energy and love of J.R. infuse the words of these poems and each of us as we are in his wisdom school, his mystery school. Viktor Frankl said, to love someone is to see the face of God. And in this poem, God is loving God. God is seeing God. Christed friends, you invite me to remember that I am in a glorious spirit city, not the city of good and evil that I'm passing through. You let me taste the true friendship of God love. You lead me to my inner teacher to listen to spirit. You help me see that form is just the clothes of spirit. You help me rest my lower appetite and feed on wisdom. You challenge me to lift my pettiness, my lack of self-worth. You expose me to the divine me. You teach me to ask forgiveness, to open the eyes of my heart. You crush my intellectual swimming and put me into the ark with Jesus. You show me light that is not of this earth. Tell me, seek sanctuary in the name. In return, I would be faithful. Keep the presence from being interrupted. Be loud silence listening. Be contemplative joy not an empty reed, but sugar cane for you. I was fire, but now I would be light for you. I would lead you to the friend who gives fullness without food, roses and wildflowers without spring, healing without medicine, instruction without books. By my side, you would gather pearls by the bucketful. Yes, I would be your friend, your precious friend, beloved of God.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for sharing your heart and your creativity and your beingness. Next up, we have Alethea Lamb playing the clarinet, and it's just mesmerizingly beautiful. And I invite you to open your hearts and see if you can hear the sound of Christ. Thank you, Alethea.
very much, Alicia. That was really moving. Thank you.